Welcome to Talk New York. I'm your host, Jamie Avery, and today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Joe Mendola, and he's running for the office of Comptroller in the city of New York.
And the Comptroller is a unique position in that he serves as the Chief Fiscal Officer of New York City, in charge of the management of the pension funds, bond issuances, city audits, etc. With regard to the pension funds, I think that's the most significant position that he has at this point. The funds are down approximately 30% in value over the last 9 months as a result of the stock market fall and the national recession. It's come to my attention and belief that the current Comptroller, as has historically been the case, is using the office as a platform to run for mayor. He doesn't have or didn't have any financial experience, is not familiar with how pension funds should be run and managed. Therefore, there's been a lot of waste, a lot of losses, unnecessary losses, poor choices of investments. And I seek to run because I have a background of approximately 20 years as an attorney and a chief compliance officer with SEC and FINRA registered firms. I know how to manage funds, how to be responsible to share and accountable to shareholders, how to make sure funds are run in a way that is consistent with their investment objectives. How do you choose brokers, dealers? Why do you choose one broker over another? The current system in the city is there's so much patronism, there's so much pay to play. What I would like to do is return the Comptroller's office to what it was originally intended to be, and that is a nonpartisan, apolitical fiduciary, a caretaker of city funds and city finances that safeguards city funds without political agenda, without the notion of using the office as a stepping stone. I have no interest in running for mayor, which is traditionally what the Comptroller is angling to do. And my interest in being Comptroller is to use the experience and the background that I have as a fiscal manager and apply that and apply private enterprise principles to the management of the funds so that they can pay their expenses without the need for city bailouts and taxpayer bailouts.
That sounds like a critical responsibility of the job. I mean, a background in finance.
Indeed.
Which you have, and that is atypical from the current Comptroller.
Well, as I said...
and previous,
correct,
prior.
I'm sorry to interrupt. As I said, historically, it's been the case that the Comptroller is a career politician who uses the office as a platform to run for mayor. That's certainly the case this time. We've seen that over and over again throughout the years. I am not a politician. I've not held public offices yet. I am a graduate of Columbia Law School in 1987, and since then, I've worked in the financial area, the financial industry. I am what's called a Chief Compliance Officer. I'm registered with the SEC as well as FINRA, formerly NASD, the New York Stock Exchange, as a compliance professional, meaning that I am responsible to make sure that each of the funds that we manage are managed in such a way that are accountable to the investors, that are executing trades in a cost-effective, efficient way, and that each decision that's made with regard to the funds is made with only one interest in mind, and that is what benefits the investor best. That's the sort of approach we need to put and give toward the New York City pension funds.
Well, look at the state of the current economic crisis that we're in and what's happened, and
that's right. If you look at the performance of the pension funds over the last 9 months, in general, the funds have lost approximately 30% of their value. They've gone from June of 2008, about $101 billion, to currently, or as of the end of March, they were down around $75 billion. So significant losses. That's in general. If you look at each fund in particular, because there are 5 funds that make up the New York City pension funds. One fund, for instance, the Teachers Fund, through November of 2008, on their equity investments have actually lost in excess of 40%. The problem inherent in the way the system is run currently is that during the fiscal crisis of the 1970s, legislation was passed whereby if the pension funds were unable to earn enough in any given year to pay their benefits to the public employee retirees, then the city taxpayers are required by law to bail them out, to make up the difference. And guess what? Ever since that law was passed, regardless of the performance on Wall Street, Every year, the city has had to bail out these pension funds. It's gotten so bad, in fact, that one of the funds has set for itself a benchmark of minus 5.4% per year. Now, what does that mean? That means as long as they don't lose more than 5% in any one year, they're going to consider themselves to have managed successfully. Could you imagine in a private enterprise setting, if saying, well, I've lost less than 5% this year, so I've done a good job?
Because they know the taxpayers will make it up.
Because the taxpayers by law are required to make it up. So there's no incentive for them to run these funds in a way where they meet their obligations going forward. In addition to that, tremendous patronage system has developed out of this, where, and this is the subject of an ongoing litigation at the state level right now, where middlemen are required to pay in order to be a part of the process, of the pension management process. I seek to take away all the patronage. I'd like to see the office, as I said earlier, return to what it was meant to be, and that is a non-political fiduciary, where the funds are run with only one goal in mind, and that is to create enough return so that they can meet their obligations on a going forward basis. In fact, I think that even in the up years, we might be able to develop a little bit of a nest egg to face and deal with the inevitable downturns that the market will face as we go forward. I mean, the markets are very cyclical. Another issue of concern to me, and one of the reasons why I think I can make a difference here, is that the choice of investments is absolutely unfathomable. The public pension funds went into hedge fund investments, which, as you know, are the most risky investments out there. Not only did they go into the most risky investments, but they went into those investments right as they started tanking. So the timing was off, the investment is off. Hedge funds are not appropriate investments for pension funds. Pension funds are not institutional investors as are, say, some CalPERS or others. Pension funds need to be seen for what they are, and that is a group of individuals who are counting on this money in their retirement to last them and to carry them forward in their old years. The city has a responsibility and an obligation to these workers. These are folks that have spent their entire working career serving the city and serving our residents. And if these funds don't earn enough money to pay benefits, and if the city doesn't have the money to make up the difference, what's going to happen to these people? What's going to happen to their families? They deserve better. The city owes them more than that. And that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to bring professionalism, competence to the office, to manage the funds in such a way that only the interests of the beneficiaries, the public retirees, the public employee retirees, that's all that's going to matter. And we're going to manage those funds so that we can be sure that there is enough money there to pay the obligations and to meet the promises that we made to those employees and to their families.
Have you been following the trends in the pension funds, and is that just a recent effect of the 30% drop?
Well, clearly, you know, in fairness, the 30% drop is in large part a measure of the downturn in general on Wall Street and the recession that seemed to take hold sometime in the second or third quarter of 2008. However, this is an ongoing problem. Again, there's no incentive, the way the law is written, for these funds to be managed in a way that they meet their obligations. There's always the caveat that the city will bail out these funds if they have any shortfall. So that takes away every incentive to operate in a way that you're maximizing the returns. And it also encourages these pay-to-play situations where folks come in and they agree to manage the funds in return for some sort of patronage or payoff. Those practices have to end.